Good morning.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us.
A very good morning, everyone. I, on behalf of Faculty of Management and Commerce, welcome you all to Budget Day with JLU. This morning, the entire nation is waiting for our Honorable Finance Minister, Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman, to pronounce the Union Budget 2021. The budget, which has the capabilities to be historical and game-changing. The country is expecting some financial announcements, some major release, some major reforms. To discuss all this and more, we bring to you a pre and post budget analysis with expert panels and live audience participation. So to start with the first session of the day, pre budget conversation on expectations and challenges, we have with us some warm up session before that. And for that, we have audience expectations. We have some videos of our community members who would like to share what they have expected from the budget. So before we go ahead with the official and the formal panel discussion, let's have a look at the expectations.
I'd like to see some transparency in this upcoming budget. As we all know that this budget has made us some social media friendly, and everyone is just very ready to take up and consume the news that is available on social media platforms or on media platforms that we have in our houses. So everyone would like to know that what the budget session have in store for them, so that they can make good decisions, so that they can earn good and they can be benefited. I'd like to see some transparency in this upcoming budget. As we all know that this budget has made us some social media friendly, and everyone is just very ready to take up and consume the news that is available on social media platforms or on the media platforms that we have in our houses. So everyone would like to know that what the budget session have in store for them, so that they can take good decisions, so that they can earn good and they can be benefited from the budget that is being announced. And thirdly, I would like to talk about the education sector. The education sector has been devastated by this coronavirus pandemic. So there have been new policies that we were hearing from the last few months. So these new policies will be requiring some great expenditure too, as these are the policies which will be dependent on mostly modern technology and stuff like that. So it will require huge funds too. So I expect provisions which can help in acquiring all this stuff that is required to facilitate these new policies.
Budget 2021 needs to hike gratuity exemption limit tax benefits on EPF, NPS due to new labor laws. The year 2020 ended with hope for a better 2021 in all aspects of our lives, economic, social, and health. The COVID-19 pandemic hit the Indian economy adversely, impacting almost all sectors, be it agriculture, aviation, manufacturing, or the service sector. All eyes are now on Budget 2021 with the hope that taxpayers will be given some respite. Every year, the budget attracts lots of expectations, but Budget 2021 will be more important for the perspective of all remedial actions that will be taken by the Finance Minister to revive the economy. Some of my expectations are from Budget 2021, increase in basic tax exemption limit and investment limit under Section 80C. The basic income tax exemption limit needs to be increased from Rs 2.5 lakhs to Rs 5 lakh. Increasing Section 80D limit for individuals. Here, medical insurance coverage is taken into consideration. For non-senior citizens, Rs 25,000 to Rs 50,000. For senior citizens, Rs 50,000 to Rs 75,000. Residential status for financial year 2020 to 21. There should be some relief in this aspect also.
I prioritize my expectations, focusing on 6 different areas. First, for the lower income group, I think that the government should be providing them with direct cash along with direct benefit transfers and skill development programs. Second, for the middle income groups, I think that the government should be exempting them from taxes, lowering the tax slabs, etc. Third, for the higher income group, I think that the higher income groups should be taxed more, since that's where the government can get its revenue, and it will also lead to decrease in the income inequality in the economy. Fourth, for the MSMEs, small to medium sized firms or entrepreneurs who the government can provide them with loan benefits, subsidies, and the government can provide them with the digital platform where they can sell their produce. Fifth, for the education purpose, I think that the government should be focusing on the efficient provision of mobile phones, laptops, internet facilities, as it will facilitate the education and will benefit the economy.
My first expectation from Budget 2021 is that there should be some provision or package given to small vendors or small businessmen so that they can cover their expense and can run their livelihood. Because we have observed that during the pandemic, the situation of these small vendors and small businessmen was not so good. And due to these losses, they were not able to run their livelihood easily. So I think that there should be some package for them so that they can run their livelihood easily. My second expectation is that there should be some provision in health sector, because we have observed that the highest expense is recorded in health sector. And we know that everyone cannot afford these expenses, especially poor people. And due to improper facilities or improper health care, many poor people have lost their life. And this is very drastic. So I think that there should be some provision or package given to them so that they can get their free health checkup and can recover soon.
My expectation number 1 is improvement in defense system centering Air Force. Since our country is prone to face a two-front war, it requires an Air Force equipped with nearly 50 squadrons. But at this point of time, we just have 30 squadrons. I expect the entry of Tejas Mark II very soon. Expectation number 2 is regarding educational inputs. I expect the government should slightly increase the amount invested in education so that a wider section of society gets benefited from it. Since human as a resource is in the most important resource list and human education is one of its inducing factor. Expectation number 3 is regarding child safety from sexual abuse. In spite of huge mechanism of helplines and services, the graph of child sexual abuse keeps on ascending. I request the government to find the loopholes and invest to fill these loopholes.
So my expectation from this budget 21-22 is, and basically I'm focusing for the pensioner people. So my expectation for them is that there should be the increase in the fixed deposit rate, because as the fixed deposit rate is at the low side, of all time. So there should be the increase because these pensioner people, they only have the pension as their sources. So there is a need that after the retirement, if they have any amount, that is to be invested in the safer side. And that is what they are doing. That is, they are investing in the fixed deposit and they are earning the interest. So it should be increased. The expectation limit of the gratuity, which is 20 lakh rupees, now it should be increased to 30 lakh rupees. And the same, the leave encashment limit, which is 3 lakh, it is again required to be increases to 5 lakh rupees because this is the only source, not the people, those who have retired in the year 2020 that they have. There is a requirement for the deduction limit to be increased under Section 80D, that is the deduction in respect to the medical insurance premium. And there's an increase because due to this COVID pandemic, the expectation in this medical expenditure has been increased and the lot of medical insurance has been taken by the people. So there's a need to increase such limit up to rupees 1 lakh.
Well, after understanding the expectations of students and faculty members and our community members on the budget that is upcoming today, we can finally move on to the formal panel discussion that we're all awaiting. To start with the first session of the day, that is pre-budget conversation on expectations and challenges, we have with us a varied panel of experts. I take the pleasure to introduce them as I speak. Dr. Rakesh Malhotra, Chairman of IDEA, member Policy Think Tank, New Delhi. Mr. Malhotra serves as the chairman for IDEA and is a senior visiting fellow at Rajiv Gandhi Foundation. He has also been associated with UNDP as state head for Madhya Pradesh. Some of his previous roles were national lead for financial literacy in NRLM, Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India, Managing Director, Rajasthan Skill Mission, Government of Rajasthan, Vice President, Domestic Consultancy Basics, among many others. Our next panelist for the session is Dr. Alok Mishra, CEO and Director, Microfinance Institutions Network. Dr. Alok Mishra has 30 years of professional experience in international development, rural finance, microfinance, inclusive finance, and research at both policy and implementation level. He has served as a board member of MFIN, via FinServe and NABARD Strategic Group on Microfinance. He's currently serving as a member of Inclusive Finance India Group of Advisors, member of Digital Finance Working Group constituted by ITU Geneva. Our next panelist is CA Anshul Agrawal. Mr. Anshul Agrawal is engaged in full-time practice and also is a faculty of direct task teaching CA, CS, CWA students and also acting as visiting faculty in various colleges, universities, and various government and non-government organizations, including Prashasan Academy, Naroha, MP, DTRTI, Income Tax, Bhopal, and Nagpur. Finally, last but not least, our moderator and co-panelist for this resourceful panel, Professor Dr. Nilesh Khare, Dean Faculty of Management and Commerce, Jagran Lake City University. Dr. Khare is an academician, corporate trainer, CEO coach, advisory board member, and management consultant with over 25 years of experience spanning consulting, social entrepreneurship, corporate life, and academia in India, the USA of Management and UAE. Currently, he is a professor of strategy, Dean Faculty of Management and Commerce, Jagran Lake City University. I welcome the entire panel on board, and I want to, of course, show my excitement and anticipation to what everybody is going to put forward in the budget discussion. So welcome, everyone. I would request Nilesh sir to please take it from here.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Radhika, for wonderful welcome and introductions of all the distinguished panel members. It's my pleasure to be the moderator panelist for the session today. We are talking about the pre-budget, where we would be focusing on expectation from budget and the challenges that this exercise faces. Dr. Alok Mishra, welcome. Dr. Malhotra, CA Anshul Agrawal. It's just a pleasure to be here, be the moderator for the session today. We couldn't have imagined a better panelist for the session with significant work experience with institutions on the ground in the policymaking from the academic side, from the direct taxes to the microfinance institutions. So thank you so much. I also take this opportunity to welcome everybody who is joining us in on Zoom or otherwise on FB Live. Thank you so much for being there with us. We also have audience here in the studio at the university. Let me begin first by talking about the budget, what it is. And I know that, so my apologies with everybody else who actually is tuned into what budget is. I know that there are several students who are also there, and then some other people who may not know what we are talking about here. So let me take an analogy here. Think about a clan or a big family that's setting up its expenditure and then income. That's what budget is all about. So there are 4 key parameters. You talk about expenditure side. You talk about regular expenditures, right? The expenditure that you incur where you don't build any assets as such. That's called the revenue expenditure. And then where you build some assets, so think about house, right? You think about a car or a plant or a house. So this is all capital expenditure. Government also thinks about this as to how it is actually going to spend money towards the regular expenditure that it has to do. Now, as I'm thinking about the clan, think about a subunits of families, and then there are different kind of subunits of the families. So some people might need some assistance, right? Because they may need assistance with their regular livelihood because they are not earning as much and things like that. So think about that revenue expenditure might go into that as well. Then the government, the family needs to think about the long term as well. So you're thinking about building human capital within the family. So the education and the healthcare and all of that. Think about this just at a larger scale. On the other side, family also has its regular income, right? The people go and then they earn income. Now, if there is a central body at the family that's actually also responsible for this expenditure, it needs to get some money from the people who are earning, these various family members who are earning, subunits that are earning. So the government taxes, so think about contributions, so some ways or mechanism in which the central body collects the revenue. The revenue is also distributed in 2 ways. So one is you have these are called receipts. Revenue receipts are regular incomes. Income on the interest that you get, income on the dividend that you get, the income that you earn. The government does the taxes. So corporate tax, the individual tax, and the GST. These are the 3 things that are the key components of how the government receives its money. Now, sometimes your income is not sufficient, but if your great-grandfathers have done well, you probably have some assets. And so what you do when you are spending more because you need to spend today more, say on education or other kinds of things that will then keep you in good stead in future. So you start spending money, it's getting money through selling assets. And that's called the capital receipts. So you divest money, you get the loans that you have given back. So these are called capital receipts. So there are 4 kinds of things: revenue receipts and capital receipts. And then you have the revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. So I think when you listen to all of us, if you begin to think about what we are talking about to the government of India, I think it would begin to make sense. Okay. The second thing that I want to do before we begin, Rakesh sir, and Rakesh sir, I know that you have actually prepared a wonderful PowerPoint. You have the horse rides. You will be able to share your PowerPoint. So I'll give you heads up. Please, share so you have the control of the PowerPoint that you have. The other thing that I want to set as a context, because we are talking about expectation and challenges, and we just saw the community members, everybody has certain expectations, right? Let me put things in the context. We were about $2.8 trillion economy in between 19 and 20. Our growth was already slowing down. We registered about 4.62% GDP growth rates. Okay. So we are close to about $2.86 trillion somewhere in about 2020, right? Okay. We had an aspirations goals of $5 trillion economy that needed 11.8% continuous growth year on year for next 5 years in real terms, hoping that the dollars would actually remain the same if we are going to convert it into dollar terms. Today, the estimates of how much economy has shrunk range from 7.7% to 9% to up to 29%. I'm not going there. Let's stay with the most conservative contraction estimates of negative 7.7%. So contraction is the negative growth rate. So negative 7.7% so for this year. Now we are expecting a sharp V recovery. We're calling it a V recovery. I would want to see from panelists how they view it. We are expecting about 11% growth rate in the coming year. The 11% on contracted base of that has contracted by 7.7%. If you actually look at the CAGR between 2020 and 2022, that's when we end at the end of this year, we would be growing by about 1.24% if we grew by 11%. So pandemic, the mutating of the virus and every other challenges, if that didn't take place, we would actually be growing by 1.2%. So just to give you an idea, we will have to grow by 9.1% year on year for next 3 years in order to average out about 6% growth rates. Why am I talking about all of this? Because if we did all of this, then we would be about 3.5 trillion economy in 2024, expecting that there's no major dollar appreciation that would take place during this period of time. Why is it important? The reason when we were aspiring for 5 trillion, we were not doing it in vacuum. There is a sizable population that's waiting to get employed in a meaningful, in an inspirational way that needs good wages, good jobs. And that's the function of the GDP size. We are actually facing today not just the problem for this year alone, but we are going to face the problem in coming years too. The population dividend that we have talked about so far can actually turn into population bomb as well if we did not grow well enough. So I just wanted to do two things before we begin. I wanted to talk about what the budget is in simple terms. Think about the family challenge. And then I wanted to put the context of the macroeconomics, that where our GDP is going and what it means to the population in a young country like ours. With that, I would invite, so the way, just for everybody, so that you understand what we're doing here today at the studio, we will have the opening remarks by each of the panelists. We will invite some other community members to talk about their expectations, and then we are going to go for discussions. The discussion would end with the panelists' closing remarks, and then we'll go for vote of thanks, and then some other videos that will play out for the expectations that committee members have shared. So, Dr. Rakesh Malhotra, delighted to invite you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Khare. Very good morning to all of you. And again, thank you to JLU for inviting me for this very important discussion in today. I'll just take you through a small journey of my presentation where I try to put the things together, which we intend to discuss, that where do we stand and how do we want to go about, and what is my expectations or anticipation for the budget. So I'll take you to the PPT. I hope the PPT is clear.
Yes, sir.
Right. So we are talking about the budget, which is going to be presented by the Finance Minister, who shall be presenting it in the back as a traditional thing which has been doing. To start with, I took some data from the economic survey, which was released only 2 days back, and we saw that how things are progressing. This is a summary of all the nitty-gritty data which has been put by economic survey. It says India is going to grow at 11%, as Dr. Khare was saying. We did have a tough time, and I agree with Dr. Khare that in coming times, probably if we sustain this growth, things would be better, but they said that it will take at least 3 more years to be back to what we started. Physical deficit is a cause of concern. Yes, it is 3.5, which was supposed to be there, but it's likely to increase because for the COVID, a lot of money government has to spend for various other things. Inflation could be said that is under control, and current account balance, I believe, is very comfortable. We have a lot of foreign exchange reserves with us. It has been growing, and India does not be bothered about that. Talking about the different sectors, I feel the agriculture sector has done a little better in the last year. That's the economic survey which is saying. There is a hit on industrial and services sector, as we all know and can understand, that the COVID has been the major reason for this decline. Now, what does the economic time says and what this feel is, why the bounce back has taken place in India, the V-shaped recovery which we are talking about, this is how things have moved well. It is says the reasons are low base effect, broad base. We are going to have a V-shaped recovery, and things should be better, much better in the second half of financial year 21. It is expected that in the discretionary consumption with the vaccine rollout will grow up, because a lot of people will be moving out. We'll have more activities, more purchases, and so on and so forth. There is also some pent-up services demand will be there, which will now catch up with the things. And the high liquidity rates and low interest rates could drive the growth in our nation. These are some presumptions which the economic survey says that will move the things in a better shape in future. Then what are the suggestions which economic survey government of India says is now we should be emphasizing more on growth. That is what the important thing is. And I think coming from the government sector, I believe growth has to be given a lot of emphasis. And for that, what steps will be taken, that we will discuss. Other major thing which I find very important in India is innovation. Probably India has been very low and down on taking out the innovations things. We hardly had less than 1% of our GDP we spend on that, but now it is going up. And unless we spend more on research, then India will be difficult to catching up with the rest of the economy across the globe. Yes, health sector is going to be a major thing. I have done some research on the various states of India where we how they spend their budget on the health sector, and that is something very pathetic in coming years. Health has to be given impetus, and budgetary allocation has to go up. Then there is inflation is under control. We feel food subsidy might be same or little increased. Farm sector has to undergo drastic changes. That is what the economic survey is saying, and I believe all which is projected as economic survey is quite good. Now, coming to the budget expectations, that's what I did little research and came out with various things. That what are the expectations of the public and the experts over this budget, which is going to be presented today by the finance minister. The first is opinion of the experts. Or rather, I think, yeah. The first of all, the analysis says there was a big pre-budget survey which was done, and it says that the CEOs, economists, and middle class, and a lot of people were contacted, and it came out that they want fiscal prudence to be the primary cause of concern for the government. They want to give more emphasis that we should try to be within the limited parameters of fiscal prudence. But yes, the jobs is the other challenge which many professionals feel that they should be addressing too. What I further feel is, and I got interaction with a lot of economists across the country, that they need little more FDI regime has to be made little more liberalized, especially for the sectors, single brand trading, contract manufacturing, digital media, defense production, agriculture infrastructure, and healthcare. Probably if we are able to open up these sectors to FDI, things might turn good. Then there is a strong requirement of support required for MSMEs, and interest subvention is one of the things which the sector is claiming, expecting the government to give to them. Then we also need to incentivize R&D. That's what I said. Until unless we increase R&D, probably things will be a little bogged down. And especially in the areas like artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, etc., the research inputs have to go up. Then digital literacy and financial literacy, those are the things which we need to catch up in our nation. They should be priority in the budget, which speaks upon the special thrust on this particular area, and a less cumbersome GST structure for MSMEs, because MSMEs range from very small amount to very big amount, and they are caught up in the GST taxation which they have to pay. A little more practical and conducive GST structure is required to be there. And it is felt that National Infrastructure Project, which has about 1 lakh crore rupees on 73,000 projects, that has to be activated. The government needs to spend a lot of on infrastructure to make the nation moving. Then I did have a small conversation with various friends that what individual, a common man like you and me would like to have. The first thing is a support for the infrastructure that is strong. And a lot of the people I interviewed for MSMEs in last couple of months, hundreds of them across the states, we find that there has to be some specific and clear-cut incentives for MSME sector so that they could be sustainable, they should be able to grow, because this is a sector which gives a lot of employment in our country. The next and the most important, which I feel, is the education system. There has to be need to support the education system in a more critical fashion. The virtual universities could have affiliation with the current universities, and something more on online teaching, online work experience, and that too, dovetailed with the vocational courses, has to come into play. We could also say that yes, some special tax incentives could be given, particularly for the private sector players who could be coming up with the examination centers and so on and so forth. And for education, The lowering of the GST is one of the major demands which is going in the various places. As I just listened to a lot of the students who were speaking before this commencement of this session, here have been asking for to reduce individual income tax and rationalization of GST. Yes, but this will be a hard balance, because until the government has a penny in their pocket, how do they spend it on? Then cyber education is something where a lot of things need to be done, and awareness has to be built to drive suppression, bring down the cyber theft and losses, because this is going to be hit hard. Today, we may not be feeling the punch, but yes, in coming time, this could be one of the various strong leakages which we need to stop. Then health insurance premiums. Today, we find that suddenly after COVID, the health insurance premium of the various companies has gone up. Probably government could step in and say, yes, there could be some cap on that, so that it is affordable and the people would get it. Then tax incentives for the companies making products in India is what generally the manufacturers want, and timely access to cheap credit. That is very critical. I think my friend Alok will be speaking more on it, but access to credit is one of the major practical issues which the MSMEs are facing today in the nation. I personally would like to place my money on the infrastructure, and it has been said that if you do ₹1 of revenue spending, the multiplier effect for the growth is 0.98. But if you spend on infrastructure, you get around 2.5 rupees. But over a period of infrastructure, long time period, you get 4.5. So nothing's better than spending more infrastructure, when probably the government is seized of it, and many economists and even economic survey which has just been released says that a lot of emphasis needs to go into this. And the sectors which need more priorities: power, source of power and source of production such as coal and oil. Roads and transport have to be bettered. Railways has to be strengthened. Communications, especially telecommunication, has to be made more vibrant. Ports and airports, until as we have them, then the things will grow. And for agriculture, especially the irrigation is the core issue which the infrastructure needs to grow and make the things more conducive for the farmers. And now we'll come to the budget allocation trends, and what are the fast trends, and what are the positions which I estimate based upon the small research which I did. My tables, 3 or 4 tables, which I would like to share with you is, this is the scheme-wise allocations which the government had it for last 3-4 years. Actuals, the budgeted for the last 3 years, and my estimates, which I've kept it in the last row, says there could be increase on some schemes, where there could be a decrease in some other schemes. I believe that maximum increase would take place in Pradhan Mantri Garam Sadak Yojana, Swachh Bharat Mission, National Rural Drinking Water Mission, Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sanchai Yojana, all again emphasizing upon the better infrastructure which we need to put in place so that we get a good results. The next is subsidies. This has been a bane of issues for all the government and everybody, that how do we manage this and attend to various subsidies. The subsidies which the government has been giving has been also been put on the slide. And I believe, my belief is that this year the budget subsidies might go a little down, not much, yes, 3-4% it should go down, because we need to be more practical and use our money more wisely. And I feel fertilizer subsidy is the thing which will go up drastically, and other subsidies also may go down. But food subsidy may go up because we are passing through a very tough phase. That is what my analysis and research says. Then there are various important steps which the government takes for the welfare of the women, the children, scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. I believe they need to be sustained. For women, I believe earlier almost 10 years percentage increase was there from year to year, but I feel this year it should be about 5%. Children need to be given more emphasis. Unless we have strong children amongst us, the nation building will be affected. And again, the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, based upon their population percentage of 14 and 9%, I think that about 12% for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes may go up, so that we are able to take social inclusion into their right consideration. Ministry-wide expenditure, it's a long, we have a lot of ministries, a lot of budgets for them. I here would like to share with you that whatever I felt is, but probably agriculture and farmers' welfare is going to be one of the top priorities for the government today. Yes, you know very well, there are a lot of practical issues, there are a lot of policy challenges which are being put up. And so this ministry may be getting a lot of good allocation. Road transport and highways, that already has been clamoring more money for the last many months and many years, that should go up. I will strongly advocate that yes, this is a good step the government may be taking. And I believe health and family welfare should also go up. based upon the budgetary allocations which had been doing in the last years. I feel this could be the scenario. This is a small, just a data which I wanted to share with you. And I have tried to put the things in perspective based upon what there are ground feelings and how the things would be there. And thank you again. This small data which I shared, we'll have more discussion as we go around. Thank you, Professor Khare. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Malhotra. If you would like, you can stop sharing your screens, the presentation, so that we can actually get everybody on the screen. I'm waiting for everybody to come on the screen. So wonderful. So thank you so much. I think the big message that's coming out from your analysis and research is growth needs to be a priority. You are going to put your money on the infrastructure. You have given the detailed allocations as well, and then talked about the challenges in terms of if they are not going to tax, where are going to get money from to spend. I would like to go to Dr. Alok. Dr. Alok, please enlighten us in terms of what you are expecting, where you see the challenges.
Good morning, Dr. Nilesh, and good morning, everybody. I will not like to go into the nitty-gritties of it, into my expectations, because numbers, Malhotra ji has provided enough numbers and context and all that. And I would keep it simple to the point which you started by giving the example of the clan. And I think I would also like to say that having seen budgets across countries and all that, I don't see the hype which budgets create in India anywhere else in the world. So first, my expectation is that from general public and people like us, somebody was saying that registered, if there would be a registration of economists in India, it would be in 10,000, but on budget day it goes into millions. So our hype surrounding the budget is so much, and that is also logical to an extent, because the government is so pervasive in our ecosystem. It is all over the place, and so my first expectation on a broader term would be that the pervasive role of the government comes down. I will come to it later, but I would keep it broad, as I said, and my expectations, I am not very sure that they will be fulfilled to the extent in the budget because of the political compulsions. But on broad brush, looking at an economist, I would say the first thing which I would like to say, which I think will happen also, is that government has to look beyond FRBM. When I say FRBM, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act, we need not worry about 3% fiscal deficit in the current times. And the economic survey said that the fiscal deficit is already 7.5. But along with that, there will be a caution from my side that yes, under the hype of doing away with fiscal discipline in tough times like in COVID times, we go ahead and do more borrowings, increase your deficit and spend to kickstart the economy, as the economists will say, counter-cyclical measures, but do it very wisely. Do it along the sectors, which some of the sectors Rakesh ji has pointed out, but do it wisely. Don't do it for revenue expenditure mainly. Do it mainly for capital expenditure, which increase the productive potential of the economy. And for example, just to give you a slight example of this subsector, like my earlier colleague was talking, a panelist was talking about, that agriculture will see. And we see that the political ecosystem is hot, the farm bills are there, the protests are going on. So there will be some allocations increase, and that will be touted as agriculture. But the government should not shy away from hard reforms in agriculture. Hard reforms, I don't mean these farm laws. I mean, because what the government will do in agriculture budget, it will say Ministry of Agriculture outlay increase from this to this, without deciding what will it be done for in much detail. It will talk about procurement of FCI increased. It will place some 5,000, 10,000 crore fund with NABARD. These are all token measures. They have to put it out and lay out a very concrete steps on improving agriculture marketing, on agriculture extension services, soil conservation. And these are all lumpy, long gestation projects in which private sector will not go. There the government capital has to go. So increase your fiscal deficit, increase your deficit, government deficit, but use it wisely so that in future it comes to help. Second, I would like to see that the government must act on clearing the clogged veins of the economy. And when I say clogged veins, I'm talking about the banking sector. Both the banking sector and NBFC sector, the entire financial ecosystem, capital markets I'm leaving aside, they are suffering from clogged veins. There are so many issues of asset recognition, and COVID has further compounded the issue. Because we have to come out clean. We have to say that this is the asset, what are the action plan, how will we deal with that? Because unless that vein is cleared, we will continue to hear about bank having liquidity but not able to pass on. That bottleneck will be there. Then RBI will keep cutting the repo rate, but the banks will not pass on because there will be transmission loss because of the NPS. So all these things have to be cleared and acknowledged. We have brushed the things quite a bit under the carpet. That will not work. So this is my second ask. And my third broad ask for the government would be to demonstrate in the budget the actual walk the talk statement or vision for minimum government and maximum governance. We have been hearing this slogan for a long time, minimum government, maximum governance and minimum government, but we see that the expenditure keeps on increasing. For example, just to give you on the numbers side, if we see the numbers of the government, in the entire budgetary expenditure, around 22% goes in interest payments. These are legacy borrowings which interest payments go into it. Second is the establishment expenditure, which is typical salaries and OPEX of the government department. That takes around another 20% of it. And then you add the defense expenditure and all that. So what remains is very little with the government to do productive investment. So that has to change. Now, how it will change, that also, I think in the later part, I will come around on that, because you had also listed as one of the discussion points that, okay, if you do this, if you borrow more, you spend more, but spend productively, you clear the banking sector and NBFC's clogged veins, and then you do actual minimum governance and maximum governance, all this will require resources. There will be some savings from saving of government expenditure, operational expenditure. But yes, a lot of many things will have to be done, because the current size of the budget at 30 lakh crore may probably need to be expended to around 40 lakh crore for this year. We have to be a little bit productive on that, because otherwise the growth is not going to come back in recent times very soon. We talked about minus 7.5% contraction, and now our friend in IMF says that we will grow by 11%. But if you put it across the 2-year period, it says in 2 years we will grow in nominal terms by 2.5%. That's not the growth which is going to take across. And also, because I think I am conscious of the time, I would also like to say that the other thing which I don't think the government will do that, but I think I would strongly suggest is to move away from such catchy slogans, 5 trillion economy, this, that. Focus on hard facts and understand, accept what we say, that the state of denial has to be taken out. And because only sending euphoric statements that we are seeing green shoots of the economy, we are seeing a V-shaped recovery, capital market is bounced back, external foreign exchange reserves has gone back, this is not going to help. We have to understand that, and we should act. If they act on these 3 broad principles, increase your borrowings, spend wisely, clear the clogged veins, and actually implement minimum government, I think we'll be in good state. I will stop here and take further questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Mishra. I think you actually summarized your points as well. I just would like to highlight some of the things that kind of resonate with what Dr. Malhotra was suggesting earlier, that growth has to be a priority because the employment is not going to come in and then we are going to run into the long-term problem. So you also talked about that don't worry about the fiscal discipline now this year, given the unprecedented situation. But then what you get out of that, don't kind of spend on the revenue expenditure, create the capital assets. And I think Dr. Malhotra was going with the infrastructure there, that's one way you can kind of think about as to how you will tie the two things. Minimum government and the maximum governance, I think it's a good reminder of the promises they were made. You also talked about the fact that the catchy slogans might be doing good politically, but they're not going to change the hard numbers and logic. That's how you manage economy. You can't manage the economy the way you manage politics. So wonderful. I would actually go to CA Anshul Agrawal. Welcome, sir. And I know that you actually have a very different expertise. You talk about tax and then you teach tax to the IRS officers as well. So a pleasure having you here. And so what are your expectations? What are you listening?
Pleasure is all mine. Very good morning to each and everyone present here. I think I am audible.
Yeah.
So, sir, being last man of the match, I heard a very good speech. It's a pleasure to hear Rakesh, sir, and sir, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. So it was a pleasure hearing to them. And I don't think anything means so far the data is concerned. I don't have anything to share because Rakesh Malhotra sir has shared each and everything. So far vision is concerned, the second panelist sir has shared each and everything. So probably I might be discussing something on the different sectors and tax expectations. If you permit me, I want to say something in Hindi also.
Please.
What happened means that these days, the people are that much crazy about the budget that they are more crazy as compared to IPL. So I am getting calls from every segment. Being vice chairman of ICI Bhopal, I am getting calls from each and every segment. Sir, what is going to be held in this budget? Nirmala Sitharaman is not going to discuss with me what she is going to do in this budget. But anyways, मुझे बचपन का एक किस्सा याद आता है कि पापा मम्मी जब भी बाजार जाते थे तो बहुत सारे एक्सपेक्टेशंस हम लोग के होते थे, हम भाई बहनों के, कि पापा मम्मी ये लेके आएंगे, वो लेके आएंगे. Everyone is having some a lot of things, lot of expectations. So always expectations cannot be fulfilled at a glance. तो जब कोई चीज हमारी पसंद की आ जाती थी तो बजट अच्छा है या तो पापा मम्मी अच्छे हैं, और जब वो चीज नहीं लेके आते थे तो पापा मम्मी गंदे हैं. So this is all in the case of budget also, because every sector is having expectations. The economy definitely hit by a great segment. But as you told me, sir, we are expecting some V type of recovery. So let's see whether the physical deficit can be covered or not. So that is something which is a real challenge for us. But let me tell you some about my sectors which I really studied upon. First of all, I would like to discuss about the corporate tax reliefs. In the last budget itself, the corporate tax has been reduced to 22% for companies and 15% for manufacturing firms. So before pandemic itself. So I don't think that there is any further tax cuts for the corporate seems to be there. However, in order to keep the firms cope up with the losses suffered during the lockdown, some investment-based reliefs and the flexibility and adjusting the previous year losses can be expected from this budget, in my perception. So this is what I'm expecting from corporate tax relief. So far, the insurance penetration is concerned, you know very well, the insurance penetration in India has been very low. Means the people are exactly not very much aware about the insurance. The pandemic and the high medical costs related to it have led to an increased awareness about the importance of insurance. Perhaps this is an opportunity time for the insurance sector to increase its foothold. So one way to incentivize more people to opt for insurance, I think government may increase the consequential tax reduction limits in 80C and 80D. So even corporate can also be given incentives in form of higher tax benefit if they opt for group medical insurance, preventive health check for the employees. And if you remember earlier, there was a keyman insurance segment also, which was very popular at earlier segments in earlier years. So I think that may be introduced in this budget also. There is a very crucial issue regarding residential status, because what happened that the segment of 182 days means once a person has spent 182 days or more in India, the person became resident. And as a consequences of that, any income which that person is earning from outside India is going to be taxed in India. So now, because of pandemic, it will really become a challenge for the person to get the benefit of non-resident. So what I'm expecting that CBDT is going to pay some attention on that part also. And there is a word place of effective management. So there is what I'm expecting is there must be some spatial relief for place of effective management or permanent establishment, which government is going to define or remodify in this budget. So this is my expectation regarding residential status. there are a lot of stressed industries and sectors like tourism, aviation, food and beverage. So these sectors are suffering from heavy losses, significant losses. However, they are recovering now. But these sectors are hit brutally by the COVID. So what I can expect is that the MSME subsidies, the MSME relief can be increased up to 3 to 4%. However, I decided not to go with the data because Sir has presented so many good data with us. But I personally feel that 3 to 4% subsidies in respect of MSME, either to whole industry, whole MSME, or particularly in severely affected segments like tourism, aviation, food, beverage, etc., can be given. Apart from that, what I feel that there can be an extension of carry forward losses also. Means earlier the business losses can be carried forward up to 8 years only. So now looking to the quantum of losses and the quantum of pandemic, it can be extended. It can be extended, say, for another 8 years, up to 8 years. So that can be done, what I believe. Real estate sectors are definitely struggling hard from 2014 onwards. So the government is consistently trying to boost such type of sectors. And so far the Bhopal is concerned, particularly agar main Bhopal ke data ki baat karu, so Bhopal, what I feel is moving on real estate only. It is a major area. So now what happened? Earlier there was a segment that the government value and the actual sales consideration, whichever is higher, shall be treated as the sales value for the calculation of capital gain. Now they have given the relief up to 10%. Means if the sale consideration is less than the government value, then the sales consideration can be treated as tax as transfer value for the tax purpose. I believe that that cushion can be increased by 20 or 25%. However, in residential houses, it is already now 20%. But in other capital assets also, like plot and urban agriculture land, it can be increased from up to 20 or 25%. That is quite expected. Now, looking to our relations with China, I believe that the import duty is going to be increased this time. So I personally believe that the smartphones, electronic items are going to get costlier. So at least 10% or 15% hike can be expected in the electronic item which we are going to import from China. So that is a very common thing. Apart from that, from the last trend itself, earlier the government was focusing on TDS, but now their attraction has been shifted to TCS part. So now the more collections are going to be expected in the segment of TCS, like if you purchase vehicle of 10 lakhs or more, you have to pay 1% TCS on that. So what I believe that more revenue is going to be shifted from TCS segment now. I'm not expecting much change in GST part because government don't need any budget to change anything in GST. They are having a GST council which is working so actively that in every week they are making some changes, and raat ke 12 baje 2:30 baje notification aa jata hai, and from the next day onwards it's going to be changed. So I don't think there is much change needed in GST structure, and at least it is not going to be much notified in budget, this budget, because they don't need a union budget to change the GST rules now. Obviously baat hai ki we are expecting a huge change, a huge investment in defense budget also, because looking to our relations with China, particularly these days, we need a significant budget for defense also. As rightly said by our panelists, farmers need to get special attention because so far the present scenario is concerned, very special allocation for the farmers is required to be needed. So what I believe, particularly approximately 19 lakh crore is going to be allocated for agriculture and farmer part. Now, from where the government is going to balance these things, because expectations are very high in each and every field. I'm not expecting much change in tax slab because it is government cannot keep happy to each and every person. Though individual are demanding a lot of tax things, but वो एक जगह से घुमा के नाक पकड़ने वाला किस्सा आ जाएगा कि गवर्नमेंट एक जगह से आपको कुछ बेनिफिट दे देगी और दूसरी जगह से वो रिकवर कर लेगी. जैसे लास्ट ईयर दे हैव प्रोवाइडेड अ डिफरेंट न्यू टैक्स रिजीम जहां पे दे डिसअलाउड ऑल डिडक्शंस ऑफ 80s एंड एट द सेम टाइम कुछ टैक्स बेनिफिट्स दे दिए थे. So more or less, I'm not expecting much changes in individual tax structure. So far, the revenue portion is concerned, what I believe the government is going to make the decision of disinvestment, and means like their own entities, Air India, BPCL, Shipping Corporation. So these things can be done by the government. And of course, 100% FDI, though I'm not in personal support of that, but that is the major thing which I think the government can do, apart from what our panelists said. So this is my basic vision for budget, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You did provide us the details that can come from somebody who actually advises people on taxes or teaches them about taxes. The message that I got from you is that in tax side, there's not going to be much change. Corporation taxes were already lowered. Personal taxes are not going to be affected much. There should be some kind of incentives given for healthcare or insurance because that's the need of the hour. And then you did talk about that where the government is going to get money from. And the idea is that it's likely to be the disinvestments. So I think as I'm aware of the time, and I would want to hear from each one of you about what you think about the points that have come up so far on the panel. And also, if you want to add to the conversation, the quick comment that I would like to add to the conversation that's going here, re-emphasizing the need that we all feel. The vision and the principles very beautifully laid out by Dr. Mishra here. My understanding is this, that the contraction has suffocated the demand. It has resulted in unemployment, severe unemployment and wage reduction. That has further compounded the problem of demand. So now we need to create somehow that demand and get it back. I'm not even talking about the growth in demand. I'm talking about get the demand back so the production capacity can get up to where it was. I'm not talking about additional capacity. So no new investment as such here, because we still have to get the unutilized capacity come to work so that we can begin to have the employment getting back. Once the employment comes back, you are thinking about additional demand. And then that additional demand would need to, so Dr. Mishra was referring to counter-cyclical effects. This is the virtuous cycle they were talking about, where the demand leads to as employment growth, wage increase, then the investments, and then the investment needs to further employment growth, and then therefore demand spurt and all of that. And that's where the investments happens. The pandemic has actually created this problem. So the urgency that I see is in demand creation. And then what I'm learning from the panelists is that don't expect more money in your pocket. If you don't expect more money in your pocket, neither for the corporates nor for the, because incomes have gone down for both corporates and the individuals. Even if you don't give the tax incentives, the lowered income is not going to leave more money in the pocket, and people are scared. So they're likely to actually put more in saving, even when the saving rates are lowered. So now this is the idea. So thinking aloud at this point in time as to where that money is going to come from that can actually spurt both the growth and then employment, whether you like it or not, it seems like that, and then borrowing from the principle that Dr. Mishra laid out, that if you could start becoming the production hub, create incentive for other people who can get the capital from outside India and choose India to become the production hub, you, as Dr. Mishra was saying, you can get some money, that capital can come in for capital formation. You can generate employment here, and then you can create it in a way that would be long-term effects. So it's like invest wisely in productivity or the production, as Dr. Mishra was saying. Just one more comment that I would make, and then I would go back to the panelists and then get their views in terms of what their reaction is on the conversation so far. As Dr. Anshul was saying, everybody wants everything. Savers need incentives to save. Investors need incentive to invest. Everybody wants some more money. That's the real challenge. And the challenge, if anything else, has been compounded significantly more and just not has the impact on this year or a coming year, but we are actually staring at the long term. I will go back to Dr. Mishra and seek his comment on the conversation, because he warned us that we need to move away from populism. It could be good for politics. It's not going to help with economics. Dr. Mishra.
Thank you. I think you have beautifully summarized it. But the critical question of it is, I think Anshul was telling that everybody wants everything, which is not possible. Not we should expect the government to be so pervasive to do everything. And you rightly said, and you have summarized it, that the demand generation has to come from the government. And that has to put money, I would say, not in the hands of corporates, not in the hands of the upper middle class, but in the hands of the people who need the most. That is the bottom 60 to 70% of people. Now, how do you do that? You rightly said the government has limited budget. Where do you get that money from? Now, that limited budget, I think there has to be a four-pronged strategy. First is, as I said, which may not give you much money, but still it will be a sign of intent, is pruning of government expenditure. Walk the talk on minimum government. Prune the government expenditure. Second is disinvestment, which my friends have also talked about, but disinvestment not in the way it is being done now. Be strategic. Know where you want to disinvest. Classify. There are global best cases. Like if we take the case of Norway, the parliament comes out with the yearly report on these are the sectors which are national importance. These are strategy. These are not for profit concern. These are semi-commercial. These are commercial. So that logic has to be built in. And last week, some paper has been produced by DPAM, the Department of Public Management. And that is a good paper on that line. But you should walk the talk on that. Disinvest, but strategically. Third is borrowings. Borrowings is easy for the government right now because the market is full of liquidity and government always commands a premium in the market, so it can borrow. So borrow long term because the rates are favorable to the government. Borrow for like things like tax-free bonds, infrastructure bonds, all can come back. That would be another third source. And fourth is, while on taxes part, I agree with my earlier panelist that there is less scope for government to do on much on direct taxes, though it is very populist for government to reduce direct taxes, and that I have raised the limit of standard deduction from 1.5 to 3 lakhs or something like that. But then it is compensated by 0.001% increase in some GST here and there, which will go from your pocket also. And we all know that indirect taxes are more regressive. Because indirect taxes affect everybody. If somebody buys 1 rupee of shampoo sachet also, he also pays that. But direct taxes are a little more progressive. It is more to people like you and me. So tax way, I do not think there is much scope. Though rationalization of GST, I would still say there are too many GST slabs and too many things moving around. But on the fourth important pillar, which I think government will try to, cannot come as a budget statement, but has to be as a policy statement, is the enforcement of tax. Because the number of persons who are paying tax in India is too low, and the amount of taxes being paid, only the salaried class get accounted for each penny. But there are many professionals and others who get away with very few less income tax. That tax enforcement has to come. No budget government can do a popular thing or a growth-oriented thing in a prudent manner if the tax base remains so low in a country like we are now a developing country. Our per capita income has reached $2,000, so enforce the tax. So 4 mantras: prune the government expenditure, disinvest strategically, borrow long term because the market conditions are favorable, and tax enforcement.
So, Dr. Malhotra, let me actually, come to you with Dr. Mishra's comment. Dr. Mishra, thank you so much. Beautifully laying out your recommendation, disinvestments and borrowing long terms. I think it's very opportunistic, but a very good advice to the government that the government could do so. I was just wondering about the government discipline, whether they are actually going to control their own expenditure and to what extent are we going to be realistic there. So that was one worry. The other thing that I just want to add to what Dr. Mishra was saying before I come to you, Dr. Malhotra. No, I was reading the figure and I realized that today cash in circulation is much more, despite all digital payments that we are seeing in the country, than what it was in 2016. But it's much greater, right? And then he was talking about that our tax regime continues to be so skewed, the penalizing those who can actually get easily accounted for. And then it kind of leaves some other people kind of a free ride. So in his 4 points, he talked about how we need to enhance this. And so what's your take in terms of, are we going to get the money that we need to spend? And then your take on the points that have been raised so far in the conversation, Dr. Malhotra.
Thank you, Doctor. I think I totally agree with what my friend Alok said. yes, four mantras which he said. Whether I'd like to add one or two more into it. The most important from my experience with working with the government closely for last couple of decades is we need to bring in efficiency in the government systems and its implementation. I just shared a slide of what are the schemes which we are implementing. But ultimately, how are they implemented? What is my 1 rupee being invested in a particular scheme giving me back? That system, if you do it, I think it's going to make a hell of a difference in all the growth efforts which the government is trying to do. So efficiency in the government implementation also has to be looked into. No doubt expenditure, I agree with Alok, salaries and everything is still huge, but okay, done a minute. I feel if that some parameter of measurement that how the central government or the state government measure कि मेरा पैसा जो खर्च कर रहा हूँ उसको फायदा क्या मिल रहा है वो भी हमें देखना चाहिए. Then another issue which I think which has not come out till now is probably inflation. I think that also is one of the issues which budget has to take care of. बहुत liquidity भी आ जाएगी, then there will be problem of inflation. So there has to be prudent balance between all the growth and inflation and development and all those things which we call for. And I believe cash should not be a problem with the government. They can utilize it. One more issue which we can do is the pillar which I'd like to add to what Alok said is incentivizing savings. Probably we Indians are one of the best savers in the world. So how do we utilize that savings, and the government could channelize that sources, which is invaluable sources. We have so much of gold with us. We have got, I think the data will be mammoth to even match the union budget on that account. So something of how the savings can be used by the government, some new instruments, some new options could come out. That will be very beautiful. And I personally also believe attraction of FDI. The more I make my country attractive to the foreign direct investment, I get more jobs, I get more money, I get myself more strengthened. So this the government has to prioritize, which is first and second. Probably the union government will be taking care of it. But yes, this is what I like to share right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think you did talk about the implementation, and then you kind of re-emphasize the need for the FDI, and then why we need to actually make ourselves more amenable to creating. I think we missed that wave of becoming a manufacturing before we jumped from agriculture to low value add services. I think I needed to emphasize that low value add services as well. Otherwise, we start jumping about our service, contributing as much as the developed countries' services contribute to the economy. Mr. Anshu, let me come to you and then ask you that you did talk about the taxes and the revenue. Dr. Mishra did talk about in terms of what his ideas of the revenues. Both of you did talk about the disinvestments. He did talk about the long-term borrowing too. What's your take on the government's ability to prune its own expenditure and the ability to attract or to become the manufacturing hub, please?
Well, Nilesh, what I believe, the most easy thing in this world is to criticize and to suggest someone. Means from government perspective, if I say in the last 2 or 3 years, it is nothing political. If I say in the last 2 or 3 years, the government is, what I believe, the government is actually trying to inculcate the restrictions on the various business hubs. I agree that there are a lot of tax concealment in, say, professions and business area. That is true. But actually, the Rome cannot be built in a day. You cannot put entire restriction in a day. Of course, the suggestions are always there. Say so far the cash part is concerned, the government has put a lot of restrictions on the cash part. So means the concealment part is much lesser as compared to the last 4 years. Means we saw a lot of measures. Say demonetization was there. The restriction is still there. If you are withdrawing say more than 1 crore from your account, you have to face TDS consequences also. The reporting part is there from the banking part also. So the things are going smoother. So far the expenses are concerned, the government definitely is introducing the Yojana. Say Atmanirbhar Yojana was introduced, though it was not properly implemented. I do agree with that. But at least from the government point of view, if we see, it is not easy in a diversified population, diversified economy like India to implement a thumb rule in entire India. It is altogether very different. And the people of India are the most literate people so far the tax evasion and the jugaad is concerned. So if you implement a rule, they will come out with a different challenge. GST, we are saying that GST, and every week I am saying that GST is going to be changed. Why it is going to be changed? Because the people are so literate in GST, so they get a very new idea of tax concealment, tax deceiving. And with every day we are facing some challenges like fake bill and something like that. So far the expenditures of government is concerned, it is not easy, and in my perspective, there cannot be any thumb rule which can be discussed in a time span of 10 to 15 minutes. How government is going to expend and control its investment. So no comments particularly on that, sir.
I get your point. I think very well put. The Rome is not built in a day, but then Rome is actually built every day to get to that point. And I think that's where Dr. Mishra was going, that we are not expecting some magic, but we are expecting the intent and then march in that direction. You
We are
rightly
not
pointed
sitting
out.
at time, sir, that we can expect a magic at this point of time.
Sure. And then you rightly pointed out that, we have been the most ingenious when it comes to tax evasion. And then even the cash, right? Every penny that was out there in 2016 against all expectations actually came back, got accounted for, as if the out of all cash which was out there was actually valid cash. And then now I have actually, while you are saying that the concealment is actually kind of declining, but you actually have, despite that, you have much more cash available today in the economy than it was there at that point in time. Coming from a CA though, I would think that I would be more hopeful about the future growth of the cash in the economy. So I think maybe that would actually come under control, because the CA is saying so, this must be the case then. So I think what I would do, in the interest of the panel members' curiosity as well, I would have a quick one or two comments from the people who have joined me here in the studio. My apologies to people who are actually joined us on the Zoom or on the FB Live, that in the interest of time, and I know the budget is going to start at about 11 o'clock, we would not have enough time to entertain your questions. Let me quickly go around and then seek one or two comments in terms of what the audience who are sitting here are learning, what their takeaways is. And then I would come back to three of you for your final comments, about a minute or minute and a half that you would want to take. So can we have the mic here? And please feel free to express in Hindi or English. Anybody who would like to take a shot here?
Hello. So good morning to all of you. Dr. Vinay Joshi from Jagran Lakeshide University. Thank you. Most of the point has been discussed now. My worries about is only that the new budget is introduced after 15-20 minutes, that to just focus on need on economics, because most of the time we are just finding here after pandemic that people are migrated from their working place to native place. So the important target is from the government side to just provide the job opportunity to individual, those who are staying in their native place. So just need to focus on how to utilize the factors, because as Dr. Nilesh has mentioned and Dr. Alok has mentioned, we have already jumped from primary sector to tertiary sector. So we have already skipped the secondary sector. So need to understand how to build the image, or how to create the opportunity in the secondary sector, especially to just understand, to provide the jobs everyone. So that is the major aspects we should be come in the budget, especially to understand your factors, like the factors are available in the market, like labor, capital, or any other factors. So my perception is that to understand the need of economics, what is the demand in the market, and accordingly the budget should be introduced. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have some time for about a minute comment from any other participant here or any other audience member here. Please go ahead. You have the mic. Can you just pass on the mic, please? Thank you so much. Just, you need to switch it on. You move it up.
Hello.
See the game. Go ahead.
Yeah. Am I audible right now? Okay. So I would be completely talking from youth's perspective over here. So as you all know, I'm just stating a fact here that in 2021, about 1/3 of our population is between the age group of 10 and 34 years of age. All right. So we are talking about unemployment and how it's causing many concerns to the country. But are we talking about any solutions? So my very first concern regarding this budget is that in the past few budgets, the government has already, like the Prime Minister has said, and I know the panelists have mentioned earlier that we should not focus on the statements that are being made. But I think the Prime Minister said that we want to employ 300 million people in the country that are facing unemployment right now. But he introduced Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana 2.0 in 2016, which ran for 4 years. But the figures are far too low. 10 million people with 12,000 crores budget, it's very low. So what is the government doing on upskilling the youth? Because as we know, for employment, we need skilled individuals. So for upskilling the youth, right now, the government does not spend money on different institutions, only the top ones, the IITs, the IIMs. That's my major concern, that will government allocate some money to the institutions as well and to upskill the individuals? Now, very first concern here is that COVID has widened the gap. Now, as the schools are not open, colleges are not open, people who are not accessible to, let's say, laptops, mobile phones, not access, they do not have any access to technology. They are facing so many concerns because they don't have any resources. We have resources because we are privileged, but they're not. So what would the government do for that? And I've also watched videos of telecom industry, and they've also said that they would require some reduction in license fees as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have seen the two concerns coming up from the audiences here. Dr. Vinay Joshi talked about the migrated labor. Where is the immediate opportunity for them to get gainfully employed? What's happening to their plight? That's the question that he has. One of the brilliant young men asking the question that, you are not being effective. You are spending money. That's true. But where are the outcomes here? Where are the job that you promised, having spent that money? That was pre-COVID. The COVID only has worsened that situation. So what are you going to do about it? And then I particularly loved the sensitivity that the young generation has about the fact that we are the haves, there are have-nots. And then this pandemic has only widened the gap. So what are we going to do that? I think in the interest of time, I would quickly come back. And I know that Dr. Mishra has the very next appointment. So thank you so much, Dr. Mishra, for being here on the panel. Your takeaway from and your message from this panel.
I think put together, everybody has said the same thing, that there is not much headroom available in taxation tweaks, which generally people call for. Don't worry too much about the deficit, but use that money wisely. Of course, the entire vision, intent has to be seen. I think my friend Anshul was telling that Rome was not built in a day. Yes, I agree, Rome was not built in a day, but you can't be sleeping for 6 years and then say that Rome was not built in a day. So I would say that that intent has to be demonstrated. And that intent has to be demonstrated, and then people will understand that. So broadly, everybody has said similar things. These are all, but then we all know that is why economics is never economics. It is a political economy. So we will see what the compulsions are at 11 o'clock. But I think one question which my friend, I think Dr. Vinay Joshi from audience, he asked about the reverse migration and its impact and how it is going to do. I think what I see, yesterday I was in Varanasi and its rural areas, and I see that not if suppose 100 guys had gone back to their villages in Varanasi at that time, almost 75 to 80 have come back to urban centers. So that reverse migration problem in field actually is not that much. But for those 20 who remain, I think while the government will give talk about some schemes like PM Swanidhi scheme and Kaushal Vikas Yojana, but these are structural issues and they cannot be solved in 1 year's budget.
Thank you, Dr. Mishra. I was just thinking that we can't have the panel better than this. You have provided the vision and the principles. Dr. Malhotra has actually talked about the details. Anshul has weighed in on the taxes. I wish the finance minister had the access to such a wonderful team together. Dr. Malhotra, your comments, your comments, sir, your takeaway.
Yeah, what I feel is I think there are two good questions asked. Probably we are all carried away by jobs. Now I think that should be very clear. It has to be entrepreneurship. Government cannot give jobs to each and every Indian or whoever wants to seek it. I agree with Mr. Mishra that reverse migration has been very strong. Rather, I particularly right now am working in 7 states in 22 districts, practically with more than about 600 entrepreneurs, migrants, which has given me very wonderful results, which I can share separately. And I believe skill is one of the very important things. My friend, the young friend, said that Skill Mission actually started in 2008. And I was the first managing director of Skill Mission in Rajasthan, promoted the government of Rajasthan. And there we made it a point that it can be wage employment, but self-employment also has to be given due emphasis. So we need to create an atmosphere where people should be encouraged to set up their own enterprises. Why should I be always be seeking employment? Why should I cannot be create employment for others also? That's thought process has to undergo change, and I think people like you, Professor Khare, and your university should take a lead on it. It should be more on entrepreneurship promotion. Another thing is agriculture. Probably I'm going to make a little very strange and dangerous statement. Just go over to the globe and see how many countries, developed countries in the world, have agriculture as a contribution to the GDP. All have not more than 2 to 3%, right, sir? Be it America, US, Europe, and almost all who have developed countries in the world, they don't have contribution of agriculture to more than 2 to 3%. But here in India, due to political compulsions, we say agriculture should always be growing, and it has actually declined. Nothing wrong with it. Why not our services and manufacturing sectors are strengthened? Alternatives are created. Migration is made. I think one of the best schemes ever came into the country was by President Abdul Kalam by name of Pura, where they want that, yes, migration is correctly addressed in the urban centers. So that has to be taken care of. Let us be more practical on that account. And I think entrepreneurship is one of the key answers. How it is done, how it will be done, it will take its own time, and capital is required. That seems to be there. Things are coming into place, and beginning is going to be made. The last point I'd like to say is there is a most urgent need of making accountability come into play in the government spheres. You would appreciate, or people I think would understand gradually that accountability will make hell of a difference. And I think the recent government has been taking it call on that. How many times IAS officers have been questioned about their efficiencies? How many times IAS officers have been charged with no decision being able to take in? So things will change. I think what Anshul said, yes, Rome was not built in one day, but it is towards that phase, I believe, that is taking place gradually. I think right now, that's enough from my side. Thank you.
Dr. Mishra, you had a comment there.
No, I just wanted to, because I will not wade into that jobs versus entrepreneurship debate, because I don't believe wide masses of people who don't have 2 square meals security can be pushed into entrepreneurship, that is forced entrepreneurship. And second is on the Pura part, I think it was a good idea, but at the same time, when Professor Atanu Dey of JNU was part of that, he has made out a calculation that if in 6 lakh villages of India, that token amount for creation of that Pura is provision of urban amenities in rural areas of Abdul Kalam's dream. So if that 6 crore, 7 crore amount is taken, and or some token amount he had taken and multiplied by number of villages in India, that would be equal, the resources required will be equal to around 12 years of US GDP. So another pipe dream.
Okay. So I think the comment, Dr. Malhotra, maybe I'll actually come back to you in a way. I just want to kind of echo the same feeling that Dr. Mishra has, particularly about the entrepreneurship. I see the quality of entrepreneurship. I'm actually serving on 4 incubators as the member for selection panel or mentor. The quality of entrepreneurship is very poor. If you look at our job market, we are 93% unorganized sector. Several of them are self-employed entrepreneurs. So again, going back to Dr. Mishra's comment that, you know, this entrepreneurship, C.K. Prahalad had written this about the bottom of the pyramid. Anil Karnani, his colleague from the Michigan State University, actually ripped that apart by saying that it's actually government escaping its responsibility. So I think, we would leave this on the table for some other time. I think this panel is very interesting. I would probably invite you once again, where we can have some more, focused conversation on some of these points. Mr. Anshul, your takeaway.
Sir, I totally agree on what you said and what our panelists said, that the quality of the entrepreneurship is exactly very, very poor. Means you cannot expect if you are giving 10 lakhs to someone and you are expecting that a good entrepreneur in the form of mudra loan, and you are expecting that the person will generate employment for 4 or 5 persons in that small penny amount. So the quality of entrepreneurship, NSDC department is particularly working on skill development. I must quote that. So the sources, the quantum of loan, the quantum of assistance that we can take from NSDC is not that much easy that anyone from a normal city or without expertization of any professional, no one can approach to NSDC. So until and unless you make this smoother, you cannot develop a good entrepreneurship platform, what I personally believe. So these things require to be improved. The ease of business, if you want to do the ease of business, if you want to establish the ease of business in the country, you need to develop some good platforms, some easy mode of financing to develop entrepreneurship, what I feel.
We pass it on to Radhika back. Radhika, if you're around, please show up. I know that we will continue to have this conversation. This conversation could have gone for another 2 hours or so. My learning from this panel is wonderful panel, wonderful messages, guidelines, principles, vision, details. The next time we would actually do the pre-budget session, maybe a week in advance or so, where we have longer time to actually have much more animated conversations about what we might actually suggest and then what proposals we can put forth for the government. Radhika, over to you.
Yes, sir. So thank you so much for the discussion, and it was very intriguing to hear everybody speak about the expectations when we know that we're just about to hear the budget, and we would be knowing that what kind of expectations are actually met and what are the intricacies we're looking at. So with the discussed expectations and all the optimism, we conclude the session. We would like to extend a heartfelt thanks to Dr. Rakesh Malhotra, to Dr. Alok Mishra, to CA Anshul Agrawal, and Professor Dr. Nilesh Khare for sharing your resourceful insights with us in this rigorous and enlightening discussion. A big thank you to all the audience members who have joined us live today. We shall be back at 1:30 p.m. post the budget. Join us at the other side where we discuss budget reflections and what this budget has for us with another panel of experts. See you at 1:30. But before that, we have some more student and community videos where they're discussing about their expectations. So stay tuned to watch that.
My personal thanks to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
It was indeed a pleasure. And audience, thank you so much for joining us today.
The spendings in the healthcare sector should be increased. During the pandemic, we realized that the healthcare facilities in India are not up to the mark. There are some rural areas where medical facilities are not even properly available. So if we want to have a great medical system 10 years from now, we need to invest in it today. So the upcoming budget should allot more funds for that, and we should start working for a creation of better medical facilities across the country. Another important aspect which should be covered in the budget 2021 is development of digital infrastructure. This pandemic changed the way many industries work, including the education sector. Pillars of primary and higher education were badly shaken by the pandemic. A lot of students suffered major learning losses, especially the students who didn't have access to computers and internet. Around 80% of the Indian students go to the government schools, and these were the students who did not have internet and computers, and hence they faced major losses due to this digital divide which exists in our country. So the upcoming budget should allocate more funds for the development of digital infrastructure, and this digital divide which exists should be completely erased.
For the sake of investors, we all are hoping to find some clarity over the regulations of cryptocurrencies in India. Also, we are expecting some provisions and amendments in IT and GST laws for clarity on applicability of taxes. A lot of schools, mainly government schools in rural areas and small towns, got badly impacted due to this pandemic. And the reason behind that is scarcity of digital resources. The very first issue that should be addressed in this upcoming budget should be allocation of funds to the development of digital infrastructure across India. This will build a bridge between the rural and urban life. A flow of Make in India took us to a stage where companies are making products in India for the world. We would like to expect a taxism exemption for these companies. This will promote Make in India concept. Data security being as important as the revenue generation for companies, a policy framework to enhance digital culture of India.
The major challenges faced by the companies in the MSME sector is not having a good and advanced technology, and they have low production capacity and have unskilled labor. So government should prepare a budget for them so that they can be competitive and compete in the local and the global market. So my expectations from the government is to prepare that type of a budget which has been beneficial for our country and in favor for our country's citizens.
Government might try to increase the exemption limit for the tax slab. Standard deduction should also be increased. ATC limit of 1.5 lakh is also helpful for retaining the cash for the consumer. It is expected that the government might introduce the new tax called COVID cess. It is for the corporate and the individual who are in the higher tax bracket. It should be expected between 5 to 10%.
The main aim of Indian government through this budget 2021 will be to aid the recovery of the economy on the one hand and to make ensure the macroeconomic stability. Government has introduced timely interventions through relief packages addressing the vulnerable sections as well as the industry. On the regulatory front, the labor laws were made which is likely to provide a much needed impetus to economic growth. Production linked incentives has the potential to improve the manufacturing and to boost exports. On the key challenges, what were the key challenges? So key challenges were majorly two, that how do they manage the fisc in the coming year and how to move on the debt substantiability without compromising on growth.